my name is Jackson Bird, and today we're talking about grammar. That's gonna make the kids watch, right? That's what the youths are into these days? Commas. So us trans people basically come with a whole other language you have to learn. Like, we might as well all walk around with glossaries and trans to cis translation dictionaries to just hand out to people. So I've been thinking about maybe making like an ongoing trans grammar series to help explain some of our lexicon. And this is sort of the first like beta episode. The pilot. It's the pilot. I did do a TED Talk about how to talk to trans people, so this is just occurring to me how incredibly on brand this is. Also, I have a literature degree. I am so qualified to be doing this. So one question that I get asked all the time from you folks as well as from people in my life is, how do I refer to a trans person before they transitioned? You could be telling a story from their childhood or your old times together, or maybe talking about a piece of their work that came out before they did. So are you supposed to use their new name and pronouns or the ones that they went by when that event took place? The answer is very simple. You use their current name and pronouns. If that's all you wanted, you can stop watching now. See you later. That's the answer. That's it. However, I think it's very important to understand the why behind language and not just memorize a correct answer. Now, you may encounter a trans person sometime who has a different preference, but the gold standard is to always err on the side of validating someone's gender. And sometimes it may seem weird at first. Maybe you're looking at clearly feminine baby pictures and saying, "Aw, Jackson was such a cute baby, wasn't he?" Yeah, it was. I was very cute. Or maybe someone published a book under their birth name, but now they go by another one, like Ash Hardell. Even though the book is out there in the world with his old name on it, he'd probably rather you use his current one whenever you talk about it. Or maybe someone has videos on YouTube with his old name on them because he can't really do much about it. The important thing to keep in mind is that it's very likely that the trans person in question has always felt like the gender they are. It wasn't something brand new that they changed once they decided to share it with everyone and come out. So like when I talk about growing up as a little boy, that's more true to what the experience was in my head than if I were to talk about having grown up as a little girl, even though that's how most people saw me. So by referring to the person as how they identify now, even if you're talking about the past, you're validating their gender and recognizing that they didn't just change genders when they decided to tell you about it. They've felt that way for much longer. But again, it can really differ for some folks. Depending on their gender identity and their own relationship to their transition and experiences, it might be important to them to make those distinctions between the different genders they presented as or were treated as at various points in their lives. For example, when I talk about more feminine stages of my adolescence, especially if I'm talking about topics like how I was treated by men, I think it's important to bring up the gender that I presented as. But I would not be happy to hear someone else talking about that period of my life and using my old name or pronouns. Because these sorts of nuances and personal opinions are down to each person to decide for themselves, not something that you get the same privilege to do. Your role is to defer to the most respectful assumption until you are told otherwise. Now, the other reason that it's very important to use a trans person's current name and pronouns, even when talking about their pre-transition life, is because it can be very distressing for a trans person to hear their old name and pronouns. It's anxiety-inducing, it's nauseating, it's all kinds of bad and distracting feelings that we don't want to be having when someone's talking about what might be an otherwise very nice point in our lives. And you also need to think about the safety of the person you're talking about. Are you 100% sure that every person you're talking to knows that this person is trans? If you switched to their old name and pronouns to tell a pre-transition story, would you be outing them against their will? Outing someone as trans is not only massively disrespectful, but can be dangerous if some of the folks who find out are transphobic. And they could choose to act on that transphobia with violence or forms of disenfranchisement, like getting them fired from their job or removed from their housing, which, by the way, are both totally legal things to do to trans people in most states in the US. And I have just one more point of complication when it comes to talking about trans people in the past. If you are in a mixed group where some people aren't aware of this person's trans status, there might just be some stories that you can't share. You know, like, does the story involve them using the restroom of another gender, or being in Boy Scouts, or going to an all-women's camp? Those are the kinds of details that would raise eyebrows to someone who doesn't know they're trans. For example, my mom wanted to tell some friends about the prom dress she had made me and asked me how she should talk about that. And And I told her at that time I was probably more comfortable if she just pretended the dress had been for a niece. It may seem like a lot that you have to think about for the trans people in your life, or a shame that you can't share some stories, but us trans people have to think about these things all the time. We're constantly filtering and second-guessing things that we're about to say in order to stay safe and comfortable in certain environments. So I guess what I'm saying is taking on a smidge of that work yourself shouldn't be too much to ask. And also, we all perform these niceties for other people in our lives. Making sure not to offend or reveal information about friends' past relationships or family secrets or personal medical histories. All of these behaviors come second nature to most people. It only sounds like trans people are asking a lot of you right now because so much of it is new to many of you right now. Soon enough, it'll just be normal. But until then, I'm gonna keep making videos like this. So let me know if you like this video by giving it a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If I do make this an ongoing trans grammar series, I'm thinking of calling it something like, I don't know, like the transitive property or translating translations. I don't know. I'd love to hear the ideas you have. Leave them down in the comments below. And as always, you can follow me at JackIsNotABird on Instagram, Twitter, YouNow. I'm going to be traveling for the rest of the month to some cool places, so I especially recommend you following me on Instagram stories to keep up with those adventures. You can also support me by buying some of my merch on dftvA.com or joining the community on Patreon. Also, I gave a talk at YouTube in New York City last month, which just went live on their Creator Academy channel. It is telling my YouTube story and about how much of ourselves we should or shouldn't share online, like that shirt that I wore in the talk that probably should never have been shared online. But go check it out, leave some nice comments, tell them I sent you. And that is it for the day. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.